Hi guys, good evening. I am here tonight with another story out of the Dreams and Miracles book by Anne Spangler. And these are all supposed to be true stories, by the way. And this one was sent in by Paul Grams. It's called A Dream of Life and Death. Paul has been a firefighter for the city of Rockford, Illinois for 15 years. 44 years old, he and his wife Val had a son and 2 daughters. His remarkable story assures us that the veil between the natural and the supernatural is not always as thick as we might think. Raised in the church, Paul has always believed that miracles can happen. 2 years ago, he experienced a miracle that saved his life. It unfolded through a dream. Firefighting is a dangerous profession, but that's what I signed up for. Fortunately, it's harder to be married to a firefighter than to be one, or at least that's what my wife Val says. In fact, she usually has difficulty sleeping whenever I'm on duty. Strangely enough, she slept peacefully through the early morning hours of April 3rd, 1995, when I was fighting for my life. Ron Hill, John Brazens, and I were veteran firefighters, so I wasn't worried when we were called to the scene of an apartment fire. A neighbor told us he thought an old woman and her grandchild might be trapped in the second-floor apartment. We had no way of knowing that neither of them was at home that night. The apartment was filled with dense smoke, so thick you couldn't see the beam from your own flashlight unless you held it right in front of your face. As soon as we realized we were alone in the apartment, we knew it was time to get out. Our tanks held 2,200 pounds of air pressure, and we figured the warning bell might go off at any minute, signaling that only 500 pounds remained. Depending on conditions, that meant we would just have 3 minutes left to breathe, but the smoke was so dense we became disoriented. Remarkably, none of us panicked. Ron radioed the district fire chief and asked that he ordered the other firefighters to ventilate the building, breaking windows so the smoke would disperse. For some reason, though, the message didn't get through, and we were stunned to realize no one understood our danger. By now, we were crawling on the floor, feeling for our way out. A picture flashed through my mind of a photograph I had seen in a firefighter magazine. It showed handprints in the soot on the wall where a firefighter had vainly searched for a window just a few inches away. He never made it out. Now I wondered if the 3 of us were about to become the next headline. Just then, I bumped into someone. It happened several times. Each time I asked, "John, is that you? Ron, is that you?" No one answered, but I heard a voice in my head saying, "You will never get out of here alive." Despite our danger and the death sentence I had just heard, I felt complete peace. It was as though another voice, one I trusted, was also speaking to me. "Don't worry, people are praying for you. You're going to be all right." I assumed Val was praying because she often awoke in the middle of the night to pray. Just then, John's warning bell went off. We kept groping but couldn't find a window. About 3 minutes passed, and I knew John would soon be in desperate need of a miracle when his fingers found the glass. He smashed the window with both hands, and we all made it to safety. I was descending the rescue ladder just as the air in my own tank ran out. Because of a malfunction, my warning bell had never sounded. It was about 1:20 a.m. when we escaped from the apartment, but our job wasn't done. The fire had begun in the basement, so we waded around in knee-deep water beneath the building to check for problems. Several of the floor joists had burned through, and we worried the structure would collapse, trapping us beneath the water. Fortunately, we succeeded in safety, extinguishing the fire at about 5 a.m. At 5:45, I called Val to tell her not to worry. The 600 News would carry the story on how the three of us had been lost in the fire and almost died. I wanted to catch her before she saw it. After it was over, we congratulated ourselves on our good fortune. Each of us knew how close we had come to becoming part of the rubble of that burned-out apartment. Had we panicked, we wouldn't have made it. Our air supply would have been sucked empty long before we found a way out. That day, my wife left for her job at a local elementary school. Later, she overheard a conversation that startled her. One of her co-workers, Sherry, who knew nothing about my having been in the fire, was telling a friend about the strange night she had just experienced. Here's what Sherry said. I awoke at about 1 a.m. with such heaviness on my chest I could hardly breathe. I felt I was supposed to pray for someone in trouble. As I was praying, a dream unfolded before my eyes. I could see 3 people in a completely dark room, covered by a very foggy-like smoke. I didn't know who they were, but I could see them frantically searching for something. I felt it was right there with them, watching them go through the whole thing. There was confusion, and something worse than confusion, an evil presence that permeated the room. One of them kept bumping into something and calling the names of his friends, thinking it was them. Then this presence would laugh and say, "You will never get out of here alive." As I heard that voice, I saw a picture of a man clawing at a wall, trying to reach a window. The wall was full of nails, scratching, and blood was running down the window. By this time, I was out of bed, praying up a storm. Each time I would try to go back to sleep, the heaviness would return so strongly I couldn't breathe. I knew I had to keep praying until whatever it was over. Finally, about 4 or 5 a.m., the pressure in my chest lifted and I felt at peace. It seemed to me the crisis had passed. Everything was going to be all right. Anyone who has never been in a fire couldn't possibly have described it as accurately as Sherry did. The smoke can be so dense and dark that it blots out light and even deadens sound. Val knew enough about my experience to be absolutely bowled over by the story of Sherry's dream. Someone had been praying for me after all, countering a terrible presence in the darkness that was trying to destroy my hope. I know Sherry was given a vision that night to enable her to pray for us in the midst of a very desperate situation. Thanks to her prayers, none of us panicked, depleting our air supply before we could escape the fire. By the grace of God, I am alive to tell the story. Isn't that amazing? That a stranger that didn't even know him saw them. God gave her the vision in a dream, or she was even awake, gave her the vision, knowing that somebody needed help, and she prayed for them. And God, of course, in her prayers, led them out of that building and led them to safety. Our God is a wonderful God, and He works in such mysterious ways. He always makes everything work out the way it's supposed to be. And we are all in this together. Let's bring those souls to Jesus, guys. And God willing, I'll see you soon with another story from the Dreams and Miracles book. Have a good night, guys. Bye.